Respected teachers and dear colleagues. So I'll be starting with the CCR from Department of Neurosurgery. Well, it is a month where we have seen a massive war going on between Russia and Ukraine. Everybody is talking about Russia, Ukraine, Russia, Ukraine, Russia, Ukraine. So we thought we'll also present something on targeted strike on a moving mark. And first I'll start with the story of Matsya Veda, and then I'll tell you something about now and then of Matsya Veda. So, as all of us know, the story of Draupadi Swayamvar, where there was a moving fish, and you had to aim the fish's eye with arrow and looking at the reflection of the fish. So that was a very difficult feat of that time, and that is the mythology of Matsya Veda. In current era, if we look at the hypersonic missiles and everything, the real question is, are we able to hit a moving target? Recently, China tested a hypersonic missile and it misfired by 40 kilometers. So the interesting case starts with this, that gamma knife is primarily a tool where we target a mark which has been marked in the XYZ Cartesian coordinates and is fairly stable in its location. It does not move. And with this, we achieve submillimetric accuracy of planning radiation treatment of such patients. The interesting part came when I received a referral from one of my ophthalmology colleague about a patient with an intraocular tumor, the tumor inside the eyeball. Now, some people with Icarus-like thoughts in past have tried that you can really think before you can blink, but you really can't think. You will just blink. And such is the problem with this patient, that if you have to target the lesion, the eye has to be immobilized. So let me call Dr. Navneet, SR Ophthalmology, go through the history of an examination of this patient, and then as the story unfolds, we'll tell you how we achieved this target.
Good afternoon, everyone. So we'll be presenting the case of a 40 years old female who presented with complaints of progressive diminution of vision in the right eye since 6 months. She had no history of pain or redness, no history of any watering or discharge from the eye. On examination, her visual acuity in the right eye was hand movement close to face with projection of rays in all quadrants equal, and left eye vision was 6 by 6. Anterior segment both eyes was within normal limits, and the IOP in both the eyes was 12 and 10 millimeters of mercury respectively. Pupillary reflexes in both the eyes, a direct and consensual reflex was present, no RAPD was seen. So this is the fundus picture of the right eye, which shows a mass with a brown pigmentation present, which is abutting the optic nerve, and an inferior retinal detachment present. So an ocular ultrasound was done in which a dome-shaped choroidal mass was seen, measuring 9.6 millimeters in the apical thickness, and the largest basal diameter was 10.1 millimeters. There was a low to moderate internal reflectivity seen and suggestive of the kappa sign. A casting hollow was seen and a choroidal excavation was seen. So based on this, we made a diagnosis of, we further went ahead with MRI, and on T2 weighted image, a hypointense lesion in the right eye was seen, and in the left eye also a homogeneous lesion was seen measuring 9.4 into 12 into 11 millimeters. And PET CT of the whole body revealed a metabolically active lesion in the right globe with no metastasis elsewhere. So based on these findings, we made a diagnosis of right eye large choroidal melanoma with inferior exudative retinal detachment, and left eye was within normal limits. So based on the diagnosis, we had 3 treatment options available to us: plaque brachytherapy, enucleation, or gamma knife radiosurgery. So in this patient, why we didn't go ahead with plaque brachytherapy was, first of all, it was a large size mass. Secondly, because of the posterior location of the mass, it was difficult to reach anatomically with the plaque in that location. Second option was enucleation, but enucleation, in this we removed the eyeball. So the patient wanted a globe salvage procedure. So we decided to go ahead with the gamma knife radiosurgery. in which the survival rates are comparable as compared to enucleation. So further discussion will be done by Dr. Manoj.
So as we all know that we have to fix the eyeball to achieve our target of delivering a precise radiation dosage to the tumor. Now, historically speaking, Professor Lars Lexell, who invented gamma knife therapy, did his first gamma knife in 1967. And the initial gamma knife had around 206 odd sources, which would converge onto a single point and produce a treatment dosage which would control the tumor. So in this patient, we had multiple issues to be sorted out. As I already told you, eyeball is fairly mobile structure. Even if you try to control it consciously, it can't be. So the first issue was patient compliance, and patient had to be counseled thoroughly that she has to undergo this procedure, weighing the risk and cons of losing an eyeball, preserving an eyeball, vision versus other complications, which I'll come to later. The second was immobilizing the eye in a patient. So I'll come to that in coming slides. And the third is maintaining safety while we are treating the patient. So I'll invite Dr. Gopi Shankar, Assistant Professor Radiation Physics. He was our previous radiation safety officer to discuss the radiation safety concerns and planning in this.
Thanks for the introduction. So before dwelling into the concepts which we followed for the UVL melanoma treatment, let us discuss about the difference between conventional RT and SRS. So in conventional RT, we use large fields, whereas in SRS we use small fields. In conventional RT, we use homogeneous dose, whereas in SRS we have inhomogeneous dose with given to the tumors, and we need extremely high requirement for accuracy. And in conventional treatment, we give average 1.8 to 2 gray per fraction, but whereas in SRS, single fraction we give 25 gray, so high amount of dose. So it should be of high requirement of accuracy required in this. So when you see the different RT modalities for UVL melanoma, we have the plaque brachytherapy, then we have the gamma knife, proton therapy, and X-ray based radiotherapy. Among them, plaque definitely is good, and proton as an Bragg peak concept, which is an exit dose is almost nullified. So regarding the treatment planning in gamma knife, which we did, this is a case which we did in 2005, first case using the model B gamma knife, which we had that time. So in this case, we prescribed 30 gray to 50% SRS line. That time, the optic we were unable to control the dose. The optic nerve maximum dose was 15 gray, whereas right now we have the perfection model. In this we gave a 28 gray at 50% SRS line, which is the prescription which we do. Here we were able to control the dose to 4.2 gray, the maximum dose. So and also the dose sculpting is very good in the new model. So we can do we can control nicely the dose to the critical organs. So in this planning system, which we use a computer system for doing the calculation, so it has several factors like output factor, inverse square law factor, which are all physics parameters which are used, attenuation coefficients, transfer dose profiles. All these factors are combined to get the dose to the particular tumor region. So these are the different algorithms which are available from 1996 to latest 2010. So the TPS makes heart of the overall radiosurgery procedure. So if you see when we are doing the UVL melanoma cases, so the problem comes with the curved surface near the eye. So earlier we used to use skull based like skull measurements, we say, which we use only 24 points from this. We used to manually measure it, but what they say in this study that segmentation of head surface using CT outlining produces a more accurate head shape model. So we always adapted the CT based head shaping for this procedure. And also they showed that when the post or pin which we drilled into the patient's head is close to the tumor region, there may be some inaccuracy because of the artifacts produced by the metallic pins near the during the CT imaging. So in this planning, we have something called inverse planning. Which difference forward planning is manual planning. Inverse planning is which we do something called auto planning. So in this auto planning, we can control the parameters, something called coverage, selectivity, gradient index, beam on time, just by controlling the parameters here. Also, the what amount of collimators we want to control, what you want to use. So business planning is mandatory for UL management because of very less time for very less time for the patient to be treated. So business planning is very important during this procedure. So we also did a experimental validation of the study, this UL melanoma treatment. We did the phantom study, which you see here. So we found that those patients exhibited an irregular eye surface has more calculation uncertainty. So in order to validate that, we did an interesting study last year. So we found that we can use a bolus in the place near the eye region to make the dose radiation dose uniform in during treatment. Thank you, and I call upon invite Dr. Lomi for the future next slides. Thank you.
A very good afternoon to you all. So, and also I'd like to thank the neurosurgery department for really helping out and kind enough to take our referral cases and all, especially in case of this UL melanoma where it's very large thickness melanoma where we are unable to treat with plaque brachytherapy. And likewise, in this, especially in this case, we need a very special type of block which will like to maintain the eye, immobilize the eye for at least 3 to 4 hours. Usually in our surgery, in ophthalmic surgery, we do surgery in 1 2 hours only. So out here, it's a challenges thing for us again here. So in order to fixate eyeball, this we could either a mechanical procedure which can be supplemented along with mainly by the this anesthetic agent, but the chemical this is used to give a peribral block, which is supplemented by the mechanical. So these are the extraocular muscles, 7 muscle extraocular we have got. What we are planning here to we have to mobilize both echinacea and then anesthetic to all these 7 muscles. So we are planning to give a peribral block. So in this peribral block, we give this block in the extra conal space. So it's a mixture of 5 ml of lignocaine, which mixed with sodium hyaluronate. So it will help to make the anesthetic agent diffuse over this peribubble area, and it's mixed with the 5 ml of bupivacaine for longer sustain of this anesthetic agent. So this 5 ml is given in inferior orbital area at the junction of one lateral 1/3 and medial 2/3, and then another 5 ml is given at superior nasal in the supratrochlear area. So this by giving this good this peribubble block, we expect that at least two hours that the eye can be immobilized. However, like if you want to sustain more period for this procedure, we are thinking of like to add additional of mechanical supplement, that is by the holding this recti muscles, the 3 recti muscle to this that head fixation frame. So here we make this conjunctival flap, and then we have to place this by using the 40 silk muscle in all these 3 recti muscle, and it is tied on this metallic frame, and which we give this as an inverted Mercedes logo sign. And then finally this temporal tarsorrhaphy has to be done to prevent this exposure to the cornea. So we have this video here, a short video. So this is the supratrochlear space we have given this injection, and this inferior 180-degree peritomy is done, and then you identify and hook this 3 recti muscle, the lateral rectus, middle rectus, and an inferior rectus muscle, and this 40 silk suture is passed beneath this muscle, and it have to be gentle enough because you have got this oculocardiac reflex again, and then this muscle is tied, passed through and then tied to the this metallic this fixation head fixation frame. So either neither too hard, neither it will be too soft, because if you give so much pulling of this eye muscle, it can cause this cardiac reflex again here, and this is tight, and finally we do this temporary tarsorrhaphy to prevent the corneal exposure. And after finishing the procedure, the patient have to be come back again to the ophthalmic OT, and then to resuture all this conjunctiva again. I think next.
So, so now we have discussed about the radiation safety and fixation issues. I'll tell you about how the day goes at Gamma Knife Center and how we manage this case. So here we start at early day with 7:30 where we fix the frame. We will make sure that the pin on the where the treatment has to be received, it is long enough to push the target into the center of the Cartesian coordinates. It will avoid the collision of radiation and makes it practical for treating this patient. The peribulbar block and fixation, as Dr. Lomi has showed beautifully, it is done, but he leaves us with a timer of 90 to 120 minutes. We need to achieve all this task, but we need to coordinate with all our MRI technicians. MRI has to be vacant for this patient. We need to plan it and also give the treatment. We have some issues here that currently what Gamma Knife therapy we are using, the source is old and the treatment plan would take about 120 minutes. So the time is almost, we can't achieve it with one block. So what we routinely do is we fix the flame, we fix the muscles, do an MRI, then plan, then give a top-up block, then go for a CT and readjust the plan by fusing it with the MRI, and then give Gamma Knife therapy, and at the end of it we check with a single sequence MRI or a CT to see the shift, and we could be attain the targets. So this is a plan, as Dr. Gopi has beautifully explained. We will see how much radiation is going to each target and all the risk organs like lens, optic nerve, and then we finalize it. Then we go for a top-up block, do a CT, adjust the plan with the considering the shift which can happen during the period. Then we go ahead with the treatment. This in the index patient, what we are discussing today, we could achieve about 91% of the tumor has received a dose which is more than 28 grays, with maximum dose which reaches up to 56 grays at the center of the tumor. Optic nerve, with a improvised technology, we could achieve up to median dose of 0.6, where the acceptable is up to 8 grays, and lens we can go up to 5 grays, but here we could do it with 1.1 grays. The shift usually we see is about 1 mm, which is acceptable. And this is the post-op MRI after 2.5 years. We can see there is reduction in size of the tumor. This is the fundoscopy after the irradiation of 2 years of follow-up. We can see these are the radiation changes, and the fluorescein uptake has decreased and the apical thickness has decreased. The PET scan after a 2.5 years follow-up, there is no metabolically active uptake in the globe or anywhere else. There is no metastasis as it says, and patient could maintain the vision which she came with, which is at the PL positive status, and we have a happy patient at the end of the story. I will call upon Dr. Simranjeet for the literature review.
Specifically, as far as melanoma goes, they are thought to be radio resistant, but there was a study done by Anindita, which had classically shown melanoma cells to be responding to radiation, however at higher doses. Another study which showed different cell lines comparing melanoma with the other cell lines, which showed relative radio resistance of the melanoma. They have been responding at higher doses. That was the concept of melanoma not responding to our conventional fractionated radiotherapy. Over the years, we had seen in a systemic review that people have tried higher doses of radiation in cases of uveal melanoma, had gone up till 70 grays, 60 grays. But over the years, we have seen the decrease in the trend in the usage of gamma knife for uveal melanoma with same 5-year local control and 5-year survival rates. Uh, this was a significant study, popularly known as COMS trial, collaborative ocular melanoma study, which had shown same survival outcomes in comparing enucleation with the brachytherapy. As far as brachytherapy is concerned, it carries an inbuilt disadvantage of having it in 2 different sessions, and patient has to come twice for placing and removing their plaques. And proton beam therapy is not available universally at every center. In the literature available, the complications of the gamma knife are reported as follows: the exudative retinopathy being the most common, neovascular glaucoma, radiogenic retinopathy, and vitreous hemorrhages. With the same survival rates, low-dose gamma knife has shown up to 91% of local control and as low as 2.4% of METs reported. This partially already explained. These were the two ways how did we address the eye shift. One, which we did in this particular case, chemical plus fixation. This has already been reported to have a sub-millimetric shift as low as less than 0.1 millimeter. Another author had proposed a use of a prism as an LED tracker for LINIC-based stereotaxy. Now I would invite Dr. Akshay Ganesh to share our experience on uveal melanoma treated with gamma knife.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Coming to our experience of treating uveal melanoma with our in-house GKT facility. In the last 7 to 8 years, we have treated 7 patients with confirmed follow-up, and this is their follow-up periods here. Seen in the literature review, other teams have used a lot higher doses which are a lot higher than these, but we have managed similar or even better outcomes using lower doses. 2 of these patients, of these 7 patients, required removal of the affected eye with a gap of 12 months in one patient who developed hazy media with retinal detachment, and 15 days in another patient who developed vitreous hemorrhage and further worsening of the pre-existing retinal detachment due to the tumor. The remaining 5 patients with maintained eyes are all PL positive, out of which one of the patients underwent lens replacement, pseudophakia, because of cataract, which we think is gamma knife induced. So the indications of gamma knife, what we have seen in our experiences, it works well in large tumors. It works well when we think of preserving the involved eye. It has equivalent tumor control, similar survival outcomes as enucleation, and it also can function as salvage for failed brachytherapy, plaque brachytherapy. Future developments which are planned at our center is we had the gamma knife perfection model before. It is being upgraded to the gamma knife icon model, which has an inbuilt cone beam CT attached to the machine, so that can help with dose fractionation as well as that can help in real-time shifting of the plan according to the target. So maybe we can even reduce the immobilization because of it. New radiation source is also being fitted along with the icon upgrade. It can deliver higher doses, so it can lead to lesser treatment times and give lesser opportunity for the target to shift. As well as an eye tracker is being developed for the Lexel frame, so immobilization might become obsolete in the future. So no target is too tough for any coordinated team effort. This is the team which we go for the our team with which we go for the targeted strike to uveal melanoma.
So this strike was made possible because of the team effort of radiation oncologist, ocular oncologist, radiologist, radiation physicist, the staff, and the neurosurgeon. So when I said that I'll tell you a tale of now and then was probably Arjuna firing an arrow into the fish, where the fish was probably dead. It was a Swayamvar Spardha. Now we have to look at a patient with a living eye. So the strike is made possible by various senses collaborating as a team, perception, processed, and fired by the gamma knife. So Dr. Saini is here for any comments. Dr. Saini, any comments? Dr. Saini is our radiation oncologist who looks after gamma knife, and Dr. Subhash is also here. Sir, any comments?
the gold standard for the smaller tumors. And particle therapy is too costly in India. We don't have a carbon ion therapy, and the proton therapies, you know, the costs are very, very high. So considering the fact that for larger tumors, I would really think a gamma knife is a really, really good option. And the only problem with gamma knife is that we have a little bit higher eye complications. That is the loss of visual acuity is little bit more if you see the historical literature. So that might be of concern, but people are coming up with the low doses, even less than 20 grain single shot. So I think we can try even that also, low dose, because the control rates are similar. Only thing is the high dose might lose of visual acuity decreases. So that might be a concern. Otherwise, it's a wonderful job. Thank you.
I can overcome that complications due to the single fraction gamma knife therapy.
With the newer cone beam CT based, we can even.
Yes, the fractionation will definitely reduce the complications as well as cure rate.
There was a patient of recurrent tumor which was referred to us, and we had apprehensions about higher dosage to the eyelid causing a more cosmetic deformity than preserving the eyeball.
Yes, in those cases
can be answer to such kind of patient.
Yes, definitely. So that is the advantage of this new upgraded machine.
Dr. Deepam from Medical Oncology.
This is very impressive work.
Yeah.
I mean, conventionally, we were told that the eye is very sensitive to radiation. You have to avoid the lens. You have to avoid the retina, and here you are sort of avoiding both the retina and the lens, and yet managing your tumor with focus radiation. I am just a little bit confused because you started out also to say that this was conventionally not radio sensitive.
Conventionally, melanomas were thought to be radio resistant.
Yes,
Conventional teaching.
and here we are giving radiation and giving not very high dose radiation, fairly low dose radiation, and yet getting reasonable control rates. And then we say that the gold standard is plaque radiotherapy. Should the gold standard not be surgery? I mean, if it's a radio-resistant tumor, I know that it will cause an enucleation and a cosmetic deformity, but in terms of cure, you would still expect surgery to be a gold standard. You said there were equivalent control rates.
I'd like to speak something on radio resistance. I'll talk about surgery.
That gives an edge for the smaller tumors, the plaque brachytherapy. Again, there's no head-to-head comparison of charge particle therapy with the gamma knife therapy, because that's again an viable options, because it's a costly option. Proton therapy having an advantage of Bragg peak effect, where you can really concentrate your dose to a target rather than spilling over the neighboring structures. So those are the advantage of having a plaque brachytherapy and the particle therapy over the gamma knife. Otherwise, control rates are fine. Only thing is complications rates are a little bit higher.
So, sir, radio resistance was classically, I mean, in the older literature, thought to be a fraction of 2 gray. And the cell line studies have shown that melanoma have a very broad, huge peaking shoulders. So the conventional fraction will not work, but anything around 6 grays in a single shot will work. So we are giving more than 25 grays, in excesses of 25 gray in a single shot. That is the rationale behind gamma knife. And the COMS study, which pooled data of all the patients till now, said that the outcome of surgery versus gamma knife is almost similar. Plus, it has the added advantage of preserving the eyeball. And versus brachytherapy, it can be given in a larger field.
But you don't preserve vision. I mean, all of them are.
The primary goal is not preservation of vision, and all the patients so far we have done, they came with almost a PL positive status. So it was easy to counsel and convince them.
To add, we don't have actually randomized control trial sort of thing comparing surgery with RT, but as Dr. Manoj has said, that outcomes are similar, and local control rate with radiation therapy is very good. Local recurrences in literature are described less than 5%. And whatever I can recollect from my non-acad, my residency as well as faculty days, I haven't seen a local recurrent uveal melanoma till now. Whatever I have seen systemic relapses only. And systemic relapses are due to because at the time of presentation, many patients have microscopic metastasis, and then they tend to recur after years. They don't recur immediately. So even we have relapses after 5 years, 8 years after they have undergone surgery or radiotherapy.
So, does it also work for other sites melanoma, or is it only specific? Well, as a primary treatment, like if you have a small lesion. So that is what I'm asking. That if it is sensitive, then one consider as a primary other site.
Kale to conclude. Thank you.
Yeah, so as time goes by, you find new and new applications for the gamma knife. So this was one of the things which I had never seen before. I mean, the first time I used gamma knife was in 1997, and for 20 years, this application at least wasn't there. I suppose that's what white hair and age is all about. Thank you.